PADMASHAMBHAVA. Let's dive into the blissful, exciting, and above all, unbelievably mystical biography of Tantric Guru PADMASHAMBHAVA. There are more than 1,000 books about PADMASHAMBHAVA written by many gurus according to their perception. His Leela in this world of many lifetimes are almost unfathomable. Gautam Buddha himself predicted emanation of PADMASHAMBHAVA as such, recorded in a sutra called Myangdas Do. O my Asusman disciple Ananda and others, after my passing away, that is 12 years later, it may perhaps referring to 1200 years, a person far superior to me, who would be the Lord of Mass, named PADMASHAMBHAVA, will be emanated, like a gem from the sea, like Usnisa Vijay among medicinal divinities, like sun and moon among the clusters of stars, like a lion among the beasts, and like a Gauda among the birds. In the country of Odiyana, on the middle of the Dhanakosa lake, located somewhere in Jambu Dweep, above the palace of Nagas or snakes, there appeared a full-blown lotus flower. On that full-blown lotus flower, PADMASHAMBHAVA took the form of 8-year-old boy. As a Nirmanakaya, he didn't think it was necessary and wise enough to take natural birth and go through suffering of an infant and a child. There was a blind and generous king named as Galpo Indravhuti. Unfortunately, he didn't have a son. He was worried that if he died, there was nobody with enough commitment to take care of his nation. As advised by his courtiers, the king used his wealth in charity to get himself blessed with child. Obviously, at the end, his entire treasures were exhausted, but he still finds the beggars and mendicants in queues. In order to procure more wealth, he proceeded to Naga Island in the sea to meet the Serpent Queen to beg for the wishful feeling gem. The Serpent Queen, after having listened to the story of the king, felt pity and gave away her most precious gem, which produces wealth. On the way back, Chief Minister named Krishnajin, who was walking with the king, saw an 8-year-old boy wrapped on colorful lotus flower in the middle of a lake. Happily, they rowed on a small boat and went to bring the young boy, who spoke words of wisdom as an adult, as a matured man. King asked and inquired about his parents and birth. PADMASHAMBHAVA said, I don't have father, nor do I have mother. I created myself on this lotus flower. King burst into bliss. He decided to take him as his son and carried him out of the lotus flower. King and the minister got further amazed because wherever he stepped, lotus bloomed out of nowhere. PADMASHAMBHAVA was enthroned as a prince with a grand celebration. Everyone was happy to get the new young prince. By the time he was a young man, he knew he didn't belong there. He felt suffocated. Profound was encased in the profane. He would leave the palace and go to the solitude of forest and meditate for some time and come. After seeing this happen a lot of time, ministers thought that PADMASHAMBHAVA needed a wife. They brought many princes to show him, but he was not even a bit interested. Then after much coaxing and fuss, they managed to marry him with one girl who was kind of a yogini in her own way. PADMASHAMBHAVA wanted to live as wandering sadhu, being dedicated to his sadhana. But to do that, he had to leave the palace. He saw that sons of wicked ministers of the king had really bad karma of their past life. The only way to release them was to kill them in a certain way. He knew he could hit 2 targets with 1 arrow. That is, he could release those boys by killing them. Ministers and the citizens won't let him be the prince if he killed them. So on one auspicious night, he climbed on top of the palace, drunk and naked, dancing wildly with his small drum, trident, and sword on his hands. Everybody came out to see the wild act of prince at midnight. When he saw 2 boys coming out, he killed them by dropping weapons to cut their heads. Then all the ministers gathered to exile PADMASHAMBHAVA, saying rules are same for everyone, be it for the king or for the citizens. Everyone wanted to kill him as a penalty for his crime. But the king, out of deep despair and love for his adopted son, consoled everybody that killing such a man is sin. So they decided to leave him in the most haunted cremation ground inside deeper region of forest, so that he could suffer and die of his own. PADMASHAMBHAVA's wife had horrible nightmares, seeing her husband's face missing 4-5 teeth. When she shared this to her husband, he would indicate to be fearless and that it was a good sign. When she heard of Padmasambhava's penalty, she had a heart attack and died. Following which, Padmasambhava was banished to Silvasal Cemetery, situated in the eastern direction of Odiyana country, as per the law of King's Court. Padmasambhava did his mystic practices in number of scary cemeteries like Silvasal, Gavasal, Sasoling, etc., living his life on clothes and foodstuffs of deceased, and thereby enhanced his spiritual power. He acquired intensive knowledge on three folds of Yoga Tantra from various Tantric saints living in different holy places of India. After that, he walked out of that place in a completely different form as a yogi, as a Tantric with long locked hair, naked with human skull as a begging bowl, and trident on his hand. In Himachal Pradesh, Princess Mandarava of Mandi, Jahore, from her early age, got interested in spirituality. She was beautiful, and all the kings from all four directions were very eager to make her their princess. Instead of all the pressures from her family and society, she refused to marry. She insisted to live as a celibate sannyasini, thus was in thirst for an enlightened guru. Then out of her fortune, she got darshan of Padmasambhava. People could not grasp the intensity, profound wisdom, and capability of master who seemed beyond terrible. So at the darkest hours of the night, Padmasambhava would come and expound the secret tantric and spiritual knowledge to the princess. Slowly, words spread in the country about the secret meeting of a tantric and the young princess. People accused her. She was accused of destroying the reputation of whole kingdom with her half-cooked talks about herself living as a religious person, but instead indulged in physical relation with an unknown naked sadhu at nights. King flew into rage. Above all, King was insecure about breaking up the royal lineage. Padmasambhava and Princess Mandarava were burnt alive upon the piles of sandalwood with large amount of mustard oil by the order of then king. But as a matter of surprise to the king, they were unaffected by the fire and converted the mustard oil to a lake, and himself and the wife, seated on a lotus petal, floated on the surface of the lake. The lake is still named as Revalsar Lake. Padmasambhava showed up smeared with ashes, more vibrant, more younger, and brightened than before. Seeing this miracle of a yogi with long, bold dreadlocks, king was filled with amazement and devotion. Realizing that he had tried to harm an enlightened yogi with such caliber, he felt ashamed and cried and pleaded for forgiveness. After that, he left the palace, leaving everybody mystified. He literally flew from the palace to the holy site called Halesidham, located at Khotang district of eastern Nepal. Legend tells that Adi Yogi Shiva himself hid and spent few months on tapas in the cave of Halesi, when he was chased by a yogi called Bhasmasura. Padmasambhava flew to Halesidham and did intense sadhana for 3 months and acquired the knowledge of Ayu Siddhi, mastery over longevity. At one time on Bodh Gaya, Hindus dominated Buddhists. Even on their daily worship, there were unwanted restrictions and humiliation. Then one Lama suggested to call Padmasambhava. Padmasambhava came and kind of demonstrated various siddhis and taught the essence of every path. People inquired who he was. He declared that he was an enlightened man. People asked about his lineage and his guru. He could not answer. Then and there, he realized to get social acceptance, one needs guru. After that, he sought out for many siddhas and mahasiddhas, yogis and tantrics of that time. Bhimala Mitra, Homkara, Pravahaste were few of them. He got initiated by an adept Vajra Yogini of that time, named Dorje Phangmo, into the practice of Mahamudra. For the practice of Mahamudra, he needed suitable place. He travelled toward the place called Harping, near the valley of Kathmandu. On the way, he got company of Sakya Devi. Now, Sakya Devi was a daughter of King Punyadhara of Nepal. Since her mother died during her birth, she was abandoned in a charnel ground and brought up by monkeys. Because of similar interest, they joined together and started their sadhana at Yangleso cave, which is currently located at Pharping, Nepal. They both acquired the Siddhi of Mahamudra. Because of this, Pharping is considered as sacred as Bodh Gaya. Padmasambhava explored and expounded the possibility of Mahamudra or Tantra. It is said all the knowings or his tapas is stored on that mountain of Yangleso cave of Pharping, Nepal. He traveled a lot, storing his knowledge or tapas on many mountains of Manang, Mustang, Halasidam of Khotang, and other places in Nepal. He also walked the hills of Sikkim and Bhutan as a Mahasiddha. Then King Thisrom Deotsen of Tibet wanted to spread the teachings of Gautama Buddha. So he invited Indian teacher Santa Rakshita to spread the message. At the same time, king committed to build a large gumba. But whatever was built in the day were all miraculously destroyed by the evils and demons of that place. At night, after much frustration, Santa Rakshita told king about the great Tantric master who could take charge over the situation. He further narrated to the king about the relation of both of them with Guru Padmasambhava in previous life and destined to meet in Tibet to consolidate Buddhism. Padmasambhava disliked the fact that king himself never came to invite him. King always sent his men. When they met each other, both of them refused to prostrate to each other. Padmasambhava thought he was king's tantric guru, and king thought of himself as reincarnation of great mystic Manjushri, who changed Kathmandu lake into the valley. Padmasambhava, out of his siddhi, burned the clothes that king was wearing. Then king bowed down, fathoming Padmasambhava's quality and competence. In Tibet, Padmasambhava subjugated all the evils under his domain and succeeded in completing Samya Gumba. From this monastery, he propagated Buddha's doctrine with the help of Santa Rakshita, fulfilling the wishes of King Thisrom Deotsen. In Samya Gumba, many powerful deities were established by Padmasambhava through the process of Prana Pratishtha. Deities literally flew high, walked, and even communicated to people. After completing the project, he wanted to return to India. King pleaded Padmasambhava to stay because there was no person in Tibet with such degree of knowledge, wisdom, and capability. It would be hard for him to fulfill his only wish of spreading dharma of Gautama Buddha in his country. Then Padmasambhava decided to stay. He started to teach Sanskrit language, but the kids of Tibet could not pronounce Sanskrit correctly. King fell at despair. Padmasambhava consoled him, informing him about the close disciples of Gautam Buddha being reborn on Tibet. He searched for all of them and found young kids who have been disciples of Gautam Buddha were put on severe sadhana of Manjushri under strict guidance and diet. Later on, he sent some of them to India to study Sanskrit. Padmasambhava himself translated many Sanskrit texts on Tibetan language. He started the tradition of Vajrayana and Sutrayana in Tibet. At first, he directed 7 students to live as a monk just for the test. The process of becoming monk took momentum, which converted a whole country into monastery and citizens into monks and nuns. During his stay in Tibet for years, he initiated many into the tradition of Vajrayana. Out of his siddhi, he brought lost texts of Vajrayana into Tibet directly from India without any medium in a moment. He translated those into local languages. They say that Vajrayana Tantra Pitak is extinct in India, but still is in Tibet because of Padmasambhava. On the day of Losar, even when king was informed beforehand about the dangers of riding horse by Padmasambhava, king rode for celebration, then was shot by an arrow to death. He searched for appropriate places for consecration. He made his first visit to present Gurudungmar Lake in North Sikkim to test an omen in the lake. After finding a favorable sign in the lake, he miraculously landed on Tasingding hill in West Sikkim along with his 25 disciples and thereby sanctified entire landscape while marking this hill as a navel point of the sacred lane, Dezong. Thereafter, the Guru explored the entire parts of Dezong, blessing and sanctifying caves, rocks, lakes, and streams. After the death of the king, he told everyone that he had to leave Tibet and go to Yaksaloka to help those wings. At last, prince, ministers, and all other people were all wet with the tears of farewell. They all followed him and gathered at Daejeon. He decided to leave his footprints on a particular rock so that future generations don't think his life story or biography is mumbo jumbo fairy tale. Thus, leaving his footprints, he flew slowly into the sky. His bird disappears. His plane disappears in the sky. People gathered there first saw him as big as vulture, then slowly turned as big as pigeon, then as small as an insect. Finally, as a speck of dust in the air, he vanished.